Hip hop generates over $10 billion on an annual basis. And it's transformed way beyond its musical roots. Now, some argue that hip hop is all about the hottest rapper right now or the latest one that's won an award, but I want to tell you there's a difference between rap and hip hop. Rap is just one of the core elements, one of the core 4 elements of hip hop, and hip hop is actually a culture. Now, some would even argue that hip hop doesn't hold a valuable role in the community, or let alone the classroom. But there's a significant impact that we can see in hip hop as I've studied it in the classroom. But most significantly, the argument would be, Chris, well, hip hop isn't what it used to be, and it doesn't have the same vibe, and it's definitely not how it used to be in the good old days. Now, some say that hip hop glory days was back when in unison we can lift our arm and say, hip hop hooray, ho, hey, ho. And some would say, but Chris, hip hop has changed so much since the glory days. I mean, you're probably talking about back when 1520 Sedgwick Avenue, home of the boogie down Bronx, became the borough that birthed the boom bap brilliance, the boom bap, boom bap. Y'all, it was raw, it was real, and way before the multi-million-dollar record deal. It was when you can catch Clive Campbell, AKA DJ Kool Herc, as he dealt records across turntables. Listen, it was the birth of the MC because they saw the need for somebody to grab the mic and move the crowd, become the master of oratorical traditions, and also deliver transitions. And let's not forget about the crew of community dancers, those Bronx boys, later called B-boys, that would stand like statues along the wall. And y'all, it was as if the breakbeat lit the wick of youthful bodies, transforming them into robots, pop locking, bottle rockets that would explode on the dance floor with creative, colorful expression that and this would go on and on and on and on until the break of day. And when the sun would rise, it'd squint its light upon a city burnt and broken. And often the sunlight would remind the youth of the darkness that surrounded them, a city crumbling with crippling violence, with the crack epidemic rising, forms of injustice and violence. But all while kids were playing with this new thing called hip hop, gaining resilience and vibrance. You could often see graph writers paint pics on back of bricks, buildings that was also burnt and turned into profit. These street artists, they would also beautify and open the eyes of those in the community that were broken. Now they say that the glory days was similar to a classroom or a laboratory because it was the genesis of a genre that was yet to even have a category. 012. See where I fit in? I once too was lost and found my rhythm redeemed when I realized my beat's purpose. And when I realized that at that moment, those are my glory days. And I pray as a youth worker that I'll never forget I pray we never forget the beat boxed inside of the chest of our youth as they sit in our classrooms, as they sit in our seats. I've developed a system in hip hop in a way to achieve academic enrichment and teach, provide a link to sync their beats with resilience and rhythms of hope. And show up to the classroom, give them enrichment, and tell them exactly how. As long as they've got their beat, their glory day can be now. Now, I truly believe through my experience that hip hop can be used to revolutionize academic success in the classrooms and also build a bridge connecting English language arts traditional curriculum. And not only that, what we found is that it can be used to tackle and achieve the same standards in our state and in our school district. Through my work at YouthHope, we've developed a partnership with Rock Island School District, and it's allowed me the opportunity to go in 5 days a week to an alternative school, Thurgood Marshall Learning Center. And that school has allowed me the opportunity to pilot a hip hop academic enrichment creative writing program. Now, the students that I work with often are caught in these systems of brokenness, and first they feel trapped by their past. They feel imprisoned by their present obstacles and situations. And they also are looking for hope. And they feel a certain fear and uncertainty about their future. So throughout the 4 quarters of our school year, I break down the quarters with a theme. The first quarter, we talk about the beginnings of hip hop, and the students write. We talk about obstacles in hip hop, and they write about their own. And we turn a quarter in the third quarter and we talk about hope and what things that they're grabbing hold of and hope for. And finally, in the fourth quarter, we talk about future. Now, I brought with me a rundown notebook our students have been engaging all year in writing exercises. But I want to show you some work by a student named Teresa. She showed up at the beginning of the first quarter when we unpacked the beginnings of hip hop, similar to, I didn't have this poem back then, but similar fashion. We explained the 4 elements of hip hop, of DJing, rapping, breakdancing, and graffiti art. And she learned a lot about the history and how it was started by a group of youth in the inner city. We used the poetic device of imagery for students to engage in writing, and I asked them to describe their beginnings any way that they wanted with as much detail as possible. Let's listen to Teresa and what she wrote. She said, "I am from the town. I'm from roaches and mice, busted windows, broken glass, trash, and big dogs. Dirt, rough and rocky, from cleaning and cooking, from fighting in jail, from a hard head makes a soft butt. And if I don't win that next fight, I'll probably get my butt beat next." Now, nobody messed with Teresa. Not in the class, not in the school. And Teresa was often guarded when she came into class. She didn't talk to me, didn't participate that much, but one thing that she did do is she engaged in the daily writing exercises, and her journal was full. By the second quarter, we started to talk about obstacles. We talked about the obstacles in hip hop. When big money contracts were introduced and there were youth and there was a fork in the road, do they take money and emulate an image that didn't quite represent their community? Did they continue to uplift the violence in their community? Or did they take the purity of what hip hop really was about and do what we call true school hip hop? There was obstacles then, and the students identified there's obstacles now. We use the poetic device as personification for students to call out what that obstacle is in their life. And for Teresa, it was being unfocused. I asked them to use personification and act like unfocused was a real person. What would it say to her, and what would her response be? Unfocused says to me, "Shut up. I will make you fail all of your missions. The only thing that's consistent about you is that you refuse to pay attention." Her response, "But I'm trying. I'm trying to focus. There's so many interruptions, but never mind then, I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn to listen." And if we fast forward to third quarter, we turn the corner in our program and we begin to talk about hope. We talk about, students learn about the hope that the inner city kids had in hip hop, where it was an alternative. Instead of gang banging, they would rap, or they would dance against each other instead of killing each other. I gave the students a challenge of sifting through a variety of different quotes, all centered on hope. And I asked them to pick one to be the title of their poem. Listen to what Teresa wrote. Like Sharon K. Penman says, "I inhale hope with every breath. I take steps out of the door each morning knowing that every time I leave the house, hope follows me. Hope is like a cloudy day. Even though it may appear dark behind the shade, the sun sets. I breathe in hope, and hope helps me rhyme through troubling times. Even when writing on this page, the sun shines through my life's clouds." I hope you've seen a big difference. We are in our fourth quarter now, and the students in the classroom have developed over 50 poems. And they're talking about their futures, as we know that in a few weeks school will be out. And they're writing, and they're engaging, and they're developing a classroom project where we partner with Judson University, and they're compiling their poems into a book that they'll be able to have a release party in their school and celebrate, and something that they can take and look at in their futures. Now, I'm not here to say that hip hop belongs in every single classroom or hip hop is the answer, but I know that for these students that I work with, hip hop was an answer for them. And what I do know is what one of the founders of hip hop education, Christopher Emdin, says this. He says, most students are expected to leave their day-to-day emotions and experiences at the door and assimilate to the culture of the classroom or the school. And I believe that we're truly at our best as educators, as youth workers, of people of influence to the next generation in our community, when we learn how to build bridges between the culture of the students and the curriculum that we are wishing to teach in the classroom. And it's then I feel like we develop and implement a strategy that gives students resilience and offers youth hope. Thank you.